Discover the incredible journey of students who transformed their dreams into reality in 30 days. Maya sat in the worn, musty classroom, her fingers tapping nervously against the desktop. The equation on the board blurred before her eyes, and the texts felt like heavy stones in her backpack. Each tick of the clock echoed like a taunt, each second reminding her of the weight on her slender shoulders. Her mother's weary smile as she left for another shift at the diner played in her mind. "Just make us proud, Maya," her mother had said, but the echoes of that mantra made her heart race with anxiety. What if she let them down? What if her dream of becoming a doctor, a beacon, a light as distant as the stars, was just unrealistic wishful thinking? Underneath the fluorescent hum of Mr. Thompson's math class, the chatter of her affluent classmates spiraled around her like a whirlwind. They were oblivious to the burdens that came from living on the edge of economic struggle. Doubts began to gnaw at her. Did she truly belong in this space? Should a girl like her, with parents who barely scraped by, even think about a future in medicine? The contradiction burned like a weight, tightening around her chest. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The words faded as Maya's mind drifted. Jake's confident voice boomed next to her, rallying their small study group, each voice carrying aspirations burdened by financial constraints. "We deserve this," he insisted, his blue eyes alight with passion. "Equity in healthcare isn't just a dream. It's our right." Yet, even as she nodded, a dark shadow crept through her thoughts, wrapping tightly around her resolve. What if Jake was right? What if they failed? A knot twisted in her stomach, constricting her breath. Each meeting with their group, each brave decision felt like a countdown to a chasm. The school administration loomed over them like a looming storm cloud, their refusal of passion masked as practicality. They were not pawns of the system. They could disrupt the status quo. Yet Maya felt the undeniable weight of expectations. Should she risk everything and push for change? Or cling to the safe illusion of acceptance and comfort, letting her dreams slip farther away? As emotions surged in a heated meeting with Mr. Thompson, the walls of complacency began to close in. Maya's heart pounded against her ribs, fear flooding her senses. What if we fail? What if they're right about us? Her voice trembled, the vulnerability cracking the facade of strength she wore like armor. A tide of anxiety washed over her, twisting with the collective fear of her peers' disappointment, shame, inadequacy. Days away from their presentation, the uncertainty hung over Maya like a dark cloud. They had put everything on the line. Would they be admired for their courage, or fall back into the shadows of their family's legacies? The voices of doubt rose like a chorus in her head. What if hard work wasn't enough? She felt suspended between aspiration and reality, teeth clenched, facing impending chaos. Would she find the spark to ignite change, or would it extinguish under pressure? A deepening silence loomed as she glanced at the group, her heart heavy with unspoken dreams, nerves electrified by uncharted territories. The clock was ticking down. Maya glanced at Jake, whose brows were furrowed in concentration. The intensity of their collective determination was palpable, filling the space with a tension that crackled like static before a storm. Yet beneath her admiration for his passion lay a sense of dread, an instinctual fear of failure gnawing at her stomach. "Guys, we need to prepare not just to present our ideas, but to defend them," Jake declared, breaking her reverie. His voice rang with a confidence that Maya envied. "I agree," Maya said, surprising herself with the strength of her voice. "If we want them to take us seriously, we need facts and personal stories that reflect our reality. We can't just wave our hands around and hope they get it." She felt a sense of relief wash over her. For the first time in days, she was participating instead of withdrawing. Jake nodded, and encouraged the group to share their anxieties and plans. Listening to each voice ventured into the depths of their concerns and aspirations sparked something within Maya, a flicker of agency. It became clear that each of them had hesitations, yet they were willing to confront the scorn they might face from those who deemed them lesser as the meeting progressed. Maya realized that they were not just preparing for a presentation. They were engaged in a heated conversation about their worth. With every anecdote shared, she felt her confidence swell. It transformed into a determination to fight, not just for herself but for the collective voices of those who felt dismissed. When the group session finally ended, their heads were spinning with ideas. It was late, and the classroom was dimly lit by the fluorescent lights above, casting an artificial glow on their faces. Maya lingered behind, feeling a surge of adrenaline pumping through her veins. She gathered her courage, taking a deep breath as she approached Mr. Thompson, who was busy packing his papers. "Mr. Thompson, can we talk?" He looked up, raising an eyebrow, and nodded. "Sure, Maya. What's on your mind? I want to know if you think we really have a chance with our project." Her voice trembled slightly. She couldn't help it. This was a crossroads, a moment of vulnerability that made her heart race. He leaned forward, hands resting on the desk. "Change is never easy, Maya, but if it's driven by genuine intent, it's more powerful than you realize. You're more capable than you know. Trust in your vision and your voice." His words ignited a new conviction within her. "Thank you," she replied, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. As she stepped out of the classroom, the cool evening air rushed to meet her. She felt alive, electrified by the daunting potential of the future. Yet anxiety lingered, whispering doubts in the back of her mind. What if their efforts fell flat? What if she stumbled during their presentation? But this time, instead of succumbing, she tightened her resolve. Now fueled by purpose, Maya paused, staring up at the stars that twinkled defiantly against the inky night sky. Each spark felt like a reminder of her dreams, the burning desire to resonate change, to embody resilience. She could transform, she could fight. She could be the beacon she aspired to be. Yet, the clarity of resolve turned momentarily cloudy. At the back of her mind lingered questions about the ethics of pushing for her beliefs in such an unforgiving system. As she walked home, each step echoed the same thought: the weight of integrity. All she wanted was to uplift those around her, but the potential costs terrified her. Could she truly battle against the tide, or would her ambitions inevitably lead to her downfall? The clock was ticking down to their presentation, and with it came the mounting pressure of decisions waiting to be made. The moment of truth was approaching, and with it, the real test of her character. Would she summon the courage to embrace the risks that came with standing out, or would she retreat into the shadows of doubt? Maya awoke the next morning, her mind buzzing with thoughts of the upcoming presentation. Each tick of the clock felt like a countdown, amplifying her anxiety. Her nightly reflections haunted her as she navigated her usual routine, brushing her teeth and pouring cereal. Against the backdrop of her mundane morning, the weight of expectation bore down on her. The urgency of her goal clashed with a persistent fear. What if she wasn't enough? She snapped out of her reverie as her phone buzzed. A message from Jake detailing their plan for the day's meeting. "Let's do a run-through," it read. "I know we can crush this." A flicker of excitement surged through her, battling her apprehension. They had prepared, hadn't they? Sure, she felt as though she was standing at the edge of a cliff, but did she really want to step back? Determined to shake off the lingering doubt, Maya reread the message, feeling a sense of camaraderie emerge. They were in this together, shaping their visions, securing their futures. As she trudged toward campus, she contemplated the moments that had transformed her into who she was becoming. A sense of agency ignited with each interaction, each moment shared within their group. As they gathered for their run-through, Jake greeted her with his characteristic smile. "Ready to change the world?" he asked, his enthusiasm infectious. "Ready as I'll ever be," Maya smirked, masking the tumult within. As they settled into their roles, Maya felt a short jolt of exhilaration. The first few practice rounds went smoothly, their ideas flowing seamlessly. The laughter they shared lightened the atmosphere, a welcome relief from the weighty concerns that had occupied her thoughts. But as they began the next round, Maya noticed something unsettling. Jake, usually confident, faltered when presenting a crucial part of their project. His voice wavered, a stark contrast to the earlier spirited discussions. It left the group uncertain. "Jake, take a breath," Maya urged him gently. "We've got your back." He nodded, visibly grateful. Yet Maya sensed the intensity of his struggle. She knew the moment was critical not just for Jake's confidence, but for the cohesion of their team. Summoning her newfound strength, she prodded, "Let us all share a line right after you, just to show our support." The next run began, and maintaining eye contact with Jake, Maya chimed in after him with a powerful thought that tied back to his points. "And that's why our ideas really matter," she asserted, feeling their synergy strengthen like a chain growing more resilient with each link added. The anxiety that had hung over them evaporated, replaced with encouragement and renewed conviction as they wrapped up the session. Something profound shifted within Maya. She had transformed from a bystander to a backbone, supporting her peers while simultaneously illuminating her path. The comfort of solidarity was overwhelming. But with each heartbeat, a deeper realization struck her. The crux of their mission wasn't merely to present ideas, but to foster resilience. "Tomorrow's our day," she stated, her voice steadier than it had been just days ago. "We own our narratives. No more self-doubt." Yet underneath that conviction lingered another voice, one that questioned the authenticity of her newfound confidence. Was she the same girl who feared being an outcast? A sense of dread began to creep back in as she considered the fallout if things didn't go as planned. As the bell rang to signify the end of their meeting, Maya took one last glance at her peers who began packing their belongings, energized and focused. They had trained hard. It was time to put everything into action. But the wonderings of what awaited them swirled inside her like an impending storm. Would she be able to sustain this newfound courage under the pressures of reality? With the seduction of potential and fear of failure intertwining, tomorrow stood on the precipice. Maya was left ruminating on one poignant thought. Would she rise as a beacon for herself and others? Or would she stumble at the moment of truth? The uncertainty enveloped her as she walked home, the evening air feeling thicker than it had that morning. The morning sun broke through the clouds as Maya prepped for the day, its rays casting a warm, hopeful glow inside her small apartment. Yet, inside her a tempest brewed. She stared at her reflection, searching for the confidence she had felt so strongly the night before. She applied her makeup mechanically, each stroke a reminder of the image she wished to project, a composed, successful version of herself standing before an audience. But remnants of doubt clung to her more than the scent of her favorite lavender lotion. Who was she trying to fool? The whispers of that insecure girl resurfaced, reminding her of past failures. How could she possibly expect to succeed now? She took a breath, forcing herself to focus, and recited a mantra she'd ingrained in her morning routine. "I am capable. I am prepared. I am enough." As she donned her blazer and stepped outside, the brisk air stung her cheeks, awakening senses that felt dulled by anxiety. Walking to campus, she reflected on her journey. Transformation had not only come from her experiences in the group but also from deep within her. The moments of vulnerability she displayed had forged connections, igniting her desire to evolve. Yet now, standing on the brink of an important presentation, she was terrified of slipping back into her old ways. Upon arriving at the meeting room, she found Jake exhibiting a confident facade, practicing his lines aloud. She admired him. He seemed to embody everything she struggled with. But as she approached him, she noticed a flicker of uncertainty shadowing his enthusiasm. "Hey, how are you feeling?" she asked. He leaned against the table, a nervous energy buzzing around him. "All right, I guess. Just trying to make sure I don't mess up again." Maya reached out, placing a reassuring hand on his arm. "We've got this. Just remember, it's okay to lean on each other. You are stronger than you think." Jake smiled, though a hint of vulnerability flickered in his eyes. Maya recognized the silent battle they were both fighting. She felt a surge of determination rising within her if Jake needed support. So did she, and there was strength in acknowledging their shared fears. When it was time for their presentation, Maya stood at the front, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. The room buzzed with anticipation, and the glaring heads of faculty members and peers filled her with an acute self-awareness. It was a stark contrast to the comforting ambience of their practice sessions. Jake began to speak, and as his confidence wavered, Maya caught his eye. It felt like a lifeline thrown between two drowning souls. She couldn't back down now. With a nod, she stepped in alongside him, taking a moment before chiming in with her carefully constructed insights that interwove seamlessly into the tapestry of their project. As the presentation progressed, a surprising clarity overtook her. The anxiety melted away as clarity became the anchor to her thoughts. The fear that had threatened to tether her had transformed into a driving force propelling her forward rather than holding her back. With each shared line of dialogue, she felt their connection deepen. The friction of their earlier insecurities fused into a powerful energy that sparked between them. They were not just presenting. They were embodying resilience and teamwork, all those late nights and hard work manifesting in real timed as they wrapped up. The applause that followed felt like a deluge washing away her doubts, but a new tension settled in. Maya smiled brightly and basked in the applause, yet a shadow lingered at the edge of her mind. Had she truly allowed all her fears to surface? Or had she merely masked them, ready to confront them again when least expected? The answer felt elusive, but one thing was clear. She had ventured beyond her comfort zone, and the path ahead promised more trials that would challenge her emerging identity. As the audience began to disperse, Maya's thoughts drifted to the future. Could she sustain this newfound boldness? And what awaited her in the ensuing days? The real test loomed on the horizon, one that would require examining deeper layers of herself than she had ever been forced to confront before. Would her next steps solidify this transformation or lead her back to shadows she had fought so hard to escape? The days that followed the presentation blurred into a whirlwind of activity, a delicate dance of triumph laced with trepidation. Maya reveled in her fleeting success, but pockets of anxiety still tugged at her conscience, a subtle reminder of the turmoil lurking beneath the surface. Each morning, as she prepared for the day, her mantra echoed in her mind, yet its potency waned. The thrill of applause became a distant memory, overshadowed by the ever-present question. Could she sustain this newfound confidence? The looming pressure of upcoming evaluations filled her with both anticipation and dread. She understood that maintaining her progress would require more than mere acknowledgement. It demanded action. In her next class, the professor introduced a collaborative project, challenging students to lead discussions on themes that resonated with their identities. The prompt ignited electricity in the room, but for Maya, it flickered something deeper, an opportunity shrouded in the fear of vulnerability. Over the following days, while the other students engaged with enthusiasm, Maya found herself pulling back. She watched as Jake and others flourished, sharing personal insights and sparking debates, while she scribbled notes furiously, grappling with the urge to speak up but feeling paralyzed by the ghosts of her doubts. The striking observations of her peers made her acutely aware of her own silence, a chasm through which her confidence felt at risk of plummeting. Each day, when it became her turn to present, her heart raced not from excitement, but from the fear of potential judgment. What if her words fell flat? What if they saw through her facade? One afternoon, she walked into their discussion group, her heart pounding as she approached her peers. Jake beamed at her, his easy charisma a sharp contrast to her turmoil. "Hey Maya, ready to share your angle?" His enthusiasm was infectious, yet it only heightened her internal conflict. Maya hesitated, the room spinning with self-doubt. What do I have to offer? Can I competently articulate my thoughts? She opened her mouth to respond, but what came out was a mere whisper. I'm not sure. The words slipped past her lips before she could brace herself against their weight. Not sure? You've done great in the other projects. Jake's face softened, and in that moment, she felt the warmth of camaraderie. Yet, beneath that, an even deeper anxiety unfurled. A dawning realization struck Maya. Not only did she fear judgment, She feared being her authentic self in a space that encouraged open dialogue. This project was not just an exercise. It was an invitation to rupture the barriers she had constructed around her identity. Suddenly, she felt the swell of determination rise within. The day prior, she had witnessed another student delve deeply into their story, how sharing had been cathartic, an act of liberation. What if her story, her struggles, could serve a similar purpose? Could vulnerability be her strength? As the discussion progressed, she summoned her courage, realizing that growth lay not in avoiding fears, but in confronting the root of them. At that moment, she made a decision. She would no longer be a passive participant in her own life narrative. When called upon, she stood up, her heart thrumming in tandem with her determination. I've struggled with expressing my thoughts, feeling the weight of insecurity creep in. Maya began, her voice steadying with each word uttered. She felt her classmates' gaze shift, anticipation thickening in the air. The moment encapsulated everything she had been wrestling with. This was her chance to distill her journey into a story that was uniquely hers. As she spoke, she breathed life into her vulnerabilities, every syllable shedding layers that had confined her. With every word shared, doubts began to dissipate, and a compelling narrative emerged. But as she concluded, a small part of her wondered had she truly opened the door to her evolution, or merely cracked it, leaving enough room for the shadows of doubt to seep through. As she stepped back into her seat, a new storm brewed within one that promised a confrontation with her deepest fears. What would it take to fully embrace her transformations and not merely attempt to weave around them? Maya knew one thing. The time had come to tear down the barriers she had erected, and the test of true change awaited her just beyond the horizon. The days that followed that discussion were laden with a mix of anxiety and anticipation. Maya found herself waking up earlier, contemplating her thoughts as she moved through her morning routine. Each moment felt charged with the weight of her revelation. She had shared a piece of herself in front of her peers. But what did that truly mean for her self-image? As she continued attending classes, the familiar pangs of self-doubt returned. The encouraging words from her classmates echoed in her ears but bore a new, more intense urgency. What now? Fostering this newfound openness was like walking a tightrope stretched above a vast chasm of uncertainty. In her next session, discussing gender identity in a world that often categorized individuals into rigid boxes, Maya noticed how fiercely her classmates engaged. Perspectives clashed and intertwined, sparking insights that seemed to ignite a collective awareness. Yet, alongside their enthusiasm, Maya remained restrained, hesitating to step forward again. The fear of returning to silence loomed ominously above her, a specter waiting to pull her under. After class, Jake approached her, a curious frown etched on his face. "You were so candid last time. I thought you would dive in again." His genuine interest mixed with encouragement, but lacking the certainty she craved. Maya felt a wall go up. "I'm trying," she confessed, her voice soft but firm. "But it feels like opening a floodgate. What if I get lost in my own story?" Jake considered her words, his brow furrowing with thought. "You're in a safe space, Maya. People want to hear you. You might be surprised at how much you resonate with others." His sincerity nestled warmly in her chest, but doubt crept in with relentless insistence. That evening, she revisited her notes, the scribbled memories of her presentation flooding back. Each line became a trigger for reflection. Could she truly embrace the full spectrum of who she was? It was a daunting thought, standing naked in the light of scrutiny. Maya decided to write down her thoughts that night. Each word was an attempt to express what had been buried deep within. Would this writing serve to guide her? Shaping her narrative felt like dissecting an intricate puzzle, pieces obscured beneath layers of unsaid experiences. The following week, her professor announced that they would host a panel discussion where students would share personal accounts of overcoming obstacles. Instantly, Maya felt the cognitive dissonance tighten around her heart, the chance to shine. Yet the risk of exposing her insecurities intensified. In that moment, she faced a critical choice. Continue waiting for the right moment to speak or seize this opportunity to reclaim her voice. Maya spent those following days refining her thoughts into a structured piece, wrestling with the notion of authenticity versus her desire to impress. When the day of the panel arrived, she donned her favorite outfit, comforting yet bold, and glimpsed herself in the mirror. Today, she whispered, "I will speak." Her reflection seemed to respond, urging her onward. But as she entered the room, the anticipation reverberated through her chest, each heartbeat a reminder of her vulnerabilities. As her name was called, she rose from her seat and stepped forward, ready to confront the looming shadows. The room was calm, brimming with potential energy that waited for her to spark it. What lay ahead was an uncharted territory that promised deeper exploration of her identity. How could she engage with a truth that felt at once terrifying yet exhilarating? Standing before her peers, she steadied her breath, knowing she was poised to embark on a profound journey. But as she opened her mouth, a chilling thought flickered through her mind. Would the words she shared truly reflect her? Or would fear twist them into a guise of someone else entirely? As she prepared to speak, the room seemed to hold its breath, waiting for her next move. Would she finally embrace the raw authenticity she had craved? Or would she waver, caught once more in the grip of uncertainty? Maya's voice emerged, hesitating yet defiant, cutting through the stillness of the room. "I used to think that vulnerability was a weakness. Sharing my story felt like exposing a wound instead of showcasing a scar of resilience." The audience was transfixed, their expressions a mix of empathy and encouragement. Each word carried a weight she hadn't anticipated, lifting some of the heaviness she felt inside. With every syllable, a new surge of awareness bloomed within her. This was not just about sharing her narrative. It was a reclamation of her identity. The discomfort that had once rooted her in silence now transformed into courage, a realization that her experiences were valid and worthy of expression. She described moments of doubt, the chaos that accompanied her quest for acceptance, and how those struggles had sculpted her into who she was today. As she spoke, she noticed the nods of understanding from her peers. It was as if each confession ignited the spark in others, lighting the way for deeper dialogues. Could it be that her story resonated more profoundly than she had ever imagined? When she finished, the room erupted in applause, an unexpected juxtaposition to the swelling vulnerability she had felt only moments before. The acknowledgement from her peers jolted her into an exhilarating state of liberation. Perhaps authenticity was not only a path but also a powerful tool for genuine connection. It dawned upon her that the fear she harbored had often overshadowed the strength of her narrative. Exiting the room, Maya felt lighter because she had shed not just doubt but also the shroud of expectation that had clung to her. In the weeks that followed, she carried this momentum, carefully unwrapping her fears layer by layer. She began leaning into discussions, contributing perspectives that had previously felt foreign. It emboldened her to engage actively in the classroom, sharing opinions and debating themes that once felt taboo. Yet, with growth came uncertainty. Engaging with raw truth opened a floodgate of inner questions. Who would she be if she continued to peel back these layers? Would the world still accept her when her complexities surfaced? The anticipation of self-discovery was tantalizing yet ominous. Her classmates began to approach her for insights, and those moments became shared opportunities of vulnerability. They had started sharing their stories with her, each revelation a testament to the power of connection. Inspired, Maya penned a reflection piece, capturing the essence of her experience in a compelling narrative. It felt like an offering, not just to her readers but to herself, a canvas where she could paint her evolution. The professor noticed the change in her demeanor. "You've really found your voice, Maya. I'd love for you to lead our next discussion." The weight of his request, initially daunting, morphed into a challenge she didn't want to shy away from. But leading felt like stepping onto a stage much larger. What if people expected answers that she didn't have? In the hours leading up to the presentation, self-doubt nipped at her heels. She paced in front of the mirror, whispering affirmations. "You are enough. Your voice matters." But somewhere within, the familiar gnawing returned. What if they judged her deeply? As she walked into the classroom, shaking but resolute, she caught Jake's eye across the room. He smiled with a knowing encouragement, and that small gesture anchored her somewhat amidst the swirling waves of anxiety. The class grew quiet, waiting just as before. Taking a deep breath, Maya knew this was more than just a discussion about gender identity. It was now a reflection of her journey through confusion, revelation, and acceptance. Would she manage to convey her evolving understanding of authenticity and resilience? As she looked out over her peers, understanding burrowed into her core, the journey to self-acceptance was ongoing. And today was merely another step on that path. But would this next venture unravel new conflicts or empower her even further? As she opened her mouth to begin, a whisper of doubt nagged her own voice, asking, what truly lay beyond this moment? Maya steadied her breath, feeling the weight of her peers' expectations wash over her. As she began to speak, her voice trembled, but the words flowed. She shared anecdotes of her past struggles intertwined with the lessons of resilience she had gleaned from them. With each story, she could feel not just the connection with her classmates, but also the stirrings of an untapped reservoir of strength within herself. She posed questions that challenged her classmates to reflect on their own narratives. What makes us who we are? Is it our battles, our victories, or our moments of raw honesty? A wave of thoughtful silence enveloped the room as nods of agreement rippled among her classmates. This was not merely a lecture. It had morphed into a collective exploration of identity and acceptance. However, as the minutes passed, anxiety lurked around the edges of her confidence. What if her revelations spurred discomfort among her peers? The fear that they might see her vulnerabilities as weaknesses threatened to twist the empowering narrative she had spun. Would they retreat into judgment rather than embrace the shared experience she hoped to foster? Before she could second-guess herself, she recalled her earlier breakthroughs, the sensation of vulnerability transforming into strength. With renewed resolve, she pushed forward. It's okay to feel lost sometimes. Embracing our imperfections can lead us to our greatest discoveries. Her vulnerability resonated deeply, and she could see flickers of recognition in her classmates' eyes. After the discussion wrapped, an unexpected hush fell over the class. A wave of applause erupted, not just for her but for the camaraderie that had developed throughout the dialogue. The sense of empathy enveloped her, a comforting cocoon that shielded her from the vulnerability of exposure. In that moment, she realized that she was not just a participant in this exploration but now a catalyst for growth within her peers. In the days that followed, Maya became more introspective, contemplating the realization that authenticity had the capacity to forge deeper connections. She actively sought feedback from her classmates, welcoming their reflections on her approach. With every conversation, she unearthed new insights about her own leadership style, the delicate balance between guiding and allowing space for others to speak. However, this newfound awareness also ushered in moments of doubt. Was she overstepping her bounds? Were her own insecurities creeping back, threatening to surface when challenged? Such questions nagged at her during quiet moments, leaving her to confront her anxieties head-on. The confrontation felt like a test, one that revealed the flickering flame of self-doubt still smoldering beneath her vibrant persona. One afternoon, as she sat in a cafe drafting her next piece, a personal reflection on her journey, she caught a glimpse of her reflection in the window. The young woman staring back was both familiar and foreign. She recognized the fear in her eyes but also the determination that had begun to carve a path toward clarity. Maya realized this was an ongoing process, a dance between vulnerability and strength, where each step forward uncovered latent capabilities she hadn't known existed. The journey toward self-acceptance was not linear. It ebbed and flowed, revealing new challenges and deeper layers of understanding. But amid all this growth, a looming confrontation awaited. One day, Taylor, a vocal critic within their class, approached her after lecture. "I don't understand why you think sharing your story is so impactful," he said, eyes narrowed in challenge. Maya felt the blood rush to her cheeks, the fire of confrontation igniting within her. Could she defend her journey? The uncertainty gripped her. The stakes were suddenly higher. Would she embrace her newfound voice? Or would she falter under scrutiny? As Taylor's challenge hung in the air, Maya braced herself, recognizing that she was on the brink of a critical turning point in her evolution. How she responded could shape not just her narrative but how she sought to stand within the complexities of her own emerging truth. Maya's heart raced as Taylor's gaze bore into her, his challenge hanging in the air like an unresolved chord. The silence around them felt heavy, charged with unspilled words and unshared emotions. To falter now would mean letting slip the progress she had painstakingly cultivated. "You think it's just about sharing?" she began, her voice steadier than she felt. "It's about connection. It's about realizing that our stories can resonate beyond our individual experiences. When I spoke, I wasn't just sharing, I was opening a door for others to step through. Maybe you don't see the value, but those moments, when someone identifies with your struggle, change everything." As she spoke, Maya noticed shifts in her peers' expressions. Some looked intrigued, while others seemed uncertain. Yet Taylor remained unmoved, crossing his arms defensively. "You're saying sharing your problems makes you a leader?" He shot back, his tone dripping with skepticism. Maya's pulse quickened, but instead of retreating, she pressed on. "Leadership isn't about being perfect. It's about being relatable. People follow those who reflect their own humanity." She felt her spirit ignite. This was her moment to confront the naysayer, not with aggression but with conviction. "Do you think you're any different?" she added, holding his gaze. "You may criticize, but that doesn't mean you're absent from the struggle. Maybe you fear vulnerability. Don't you think that hinders your own potential?" His surprise was palpable. For a fleeting second, the edge in Taylor's demeanor softened, almost imperceptibly. The challenge hadn't simply been about her. It had revealed layers of his own insecurities. Maya realized, suddenly, that confronting someone else's skepticism often shines a light on their vulnerable landscape as well. In that moment, a wave of clarity washed over her. Taylor wasn't just a detractor. He was someone reflecting a tension that resided in many, a fear of exposure. "What I'm learning," she continued, "is that every time we engage in meaningful dialogue, we evolve. Sharing isn't synonymous with weakness. It defines strength and courage, the very qualities that foster authentic connections in any aspect of life, including leadership." The words hung in the air like an unspoken challenge. Maya felt liberated, each sentence echoing truth she had almost buried. Yet, assailing the walls of doubt felt like a risk. As Taylor absorbed her response, a flicker of respect crossed his face, however faint. He looked away, perhaps considering her perspective. And in that pause, Maya understood. This dialogue had become a mirror reflecting not just her journey but also a turning point in her understanding of others. After the scene settled and their classmates slowly returned to their discussions, a subtle shift lingered in the air. Maya sensed that she had encouraged something vital, a space where confrontation could lead to not only argument but understanding. Her heart swelled with hope, but she also recognized a lingering intensity within her. What was once self-doubt was now evolving into an awareness of complexity and depth both in herself and in those around her. Yet a new challenge arose. As the semester progressed, she would need to replicate this courage not just in discussions with Taylor, but in leading a project that required collaboration from all her classmates. Perhaps confronting Taylor was just the beginning, Maya thought as she left the cafe. However, she also sensed the stakes were about to get higher. Could she translate these lessons of vulnerability into actionable steps for their project? Would she continue to embrace her authentic self while navigating the turbulent waters of collaboration? The moment of truth was fast approaching, and the pressure to maintain her newfound identity felt overwhelming. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for whatever lay ahead, the urgency igniting a fire within her. The clarity of her newfound purpose propelled her forward. What awaited ahead in this unfolding narrative might test her beliefs even further. As she walked away from the cafe, the question lingered in her mind. Was she ready to lead the way, not just for herself but for others, in a project that could reshape their interactions? The next chapter of her journey was about to begin, and uncertainty loomed as heavily as potential triumph. Maya stood before her classmates, the weight of apprehension intertwined with a newfound resilience pulsing through her veins. Today was not just another presentation. It was the culmination of her journey, a journey marked by vulnerability, growth, and the unwavering pursuit of authenticity. She felt the warm air against her skin, a stark contrast to the frigid uncertainty that had haunted her for so long. "You've come so far," she mused silently, taking a deep breath. Just weeks ago, she had been consumed by doubt, completely shackled by fear and the inadequacies that loomed large in her mind. Sharing her story had been her first act of rebellion against that fear. Now, it felt like armor, a protective layer forged from her experiences. This time, she was ready to lead, not just participate. As she glanced at her peers seated before her, some familiar, some once mere faces in a crowd, Maya felt something shift within her. Today, we're not just sharing ideas. We're laying the foundation of equality and compassion in our field of study, she declared with conviction, her voice strong and steady. Drawing on the technique she had developed through numerous discussions, she reached for a collective connection. "We've all battled insecurities," she continued, her gaze steadying on Taylor, who now sat with a contemplative expression. "The difference between us is that now, I choose to harness those insecurities as catalysts for growth." A ripple of recognition spread through the classroom, peers nodding, leaning in closer. It was affirming. She wasn't alone in this journey. With each word, Maya demonstrated her capacity to inspire, to forge pathways where none existed before. "Let us render our voices not as separate entities battling for air," she said, "but as a collective chorus singing for change, a movement that champions inclusivity in healthcare." She paused, taking note of the glimmer of eagerness in Jacob's eyes, the strength in his smile, reflecting back to her the very change they had fought for. The presentation flowed seamlessly. Jake, showcasing his strengths, expanded upon her points. Together, they formed a synergy, a potent fusion of ideas that resonated well beyond the confines of the classroom. Maya's confidence swelled. She was embraced by this moment, aware that she had transformed from a participant into a leader, someone who could instigate meaningful dialogue and foster a spirit of collaboration and resilience. As they concluded, applause enveloped them like a warm embrace. Maya felt the wave of validation wash over her. Not just for herself, but for every individual who had been told their dreams were out of reach. The echoes of clapping faded, replaced by a quiet certainty that she was on the right path. More than that, she was ready to be the beacon of hope for others, ready to stand tall against the obstacles life presented. Weeks later, after navigating the complexities of collaboration, Maya sat in that same worn classroom, the familiar hum of fluorescent lights overhead. However, this time there was a palpable difference in the air. She had exhibited leadership that transformed fears into actionable outcomes. Feedback from peers and professors reflected a recognition of her maturity, her ability to challenge norms compassionately and constructively. "You've proven not only that you belong here, Maya, but that you can influence change wherever you go," Mr. Thompson remarked during a small gathering to celebrate their successful project. He presented her with an award for leadership in their cohort, an emblem of her growth. This validation solidified the transformation that had taken place. She was no longer just a girl with dreams, but someone who had paid her dues, deserving of her spot on this path. Maya accepted the award with a sense of pride, the kind that can only come from within. It was a tangible manifestation of everything she had fought for, including acceptance, achievement, and the persistence to pursue her aspirations. Her journey, a once tenuous thread, had woven itself into a tapestry of hopes. Fulfilled and futures brightened, in that moment, surrounded by her peers. A surge of deep satisfaction filled her heart. She recognized that this was just the beginning, a new chapter of her life unfolding where she could instigate change, cultivate connection, and, most importantly, embrace her authentic self fully. As she left the classroom that day, the stars overhead seemed to shine just a little brighter. Maya was not merely a dreamer. She was a doer, a woman ready to confront the world's challenges while uplifting others in the process. And with that awareness came a profound sense of purpose. Now is your moment to ensure you never miss a story like this again. Subscribe immediately to the channel for more exclusive emotional journeys of transformation and resilience. You need to subscribe now, and leave a like to boost this inspiring content in the algorithm. Comment your thoughts on Maya's inspiring journey and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to show your support. Let's spread these stories of overcoming together.